Welcome back. This is Good Morning Namibia. Now, the MSME Forum from the African Union is currently being hosted. Between 300 and 400 delegates from across the continent are in Windhoek for this 5-day engagement that kicked off yesterday, the 9th day of September 2024, and will run until the 13th of September. The attendees include inter alia a diverse group of stakeholders, such as African small business owners, directors of MSME development agencies from African Union member states, investors, policymakers and development partners, among many others. Joining us to share more on this, Madam Julia Muetudhana, Executive Director responsible for talent, innovation and productivity at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, and currently also dealing with MSME development. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome back to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning, Denver, and good morning to our listeners. It's such an honor to be here this morning.
The honor is ours to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Please talk to us about the importance and the significance of the forum being hosted here in the Namibian capital at this time.
I think just a bit of background. SMEs forms the backbone of African economies, representing a diverse range of business operating in various sectors. And according to recent studies, SMEs account for a substantial portion of employment opportunities, employing millions across the continent. MSMEs, therefore, need to continuously innovate, maintain, and develop their businesses. And so it's a very, very critical component for the African economies. The Namibian government, the Republic of Namibia, took a cabinet decision to really host the MSME Forum, AU MSME Forum. And so we have a significant number of African member states, as you have alluded earlier, being represented at this forum. And there is an opportunity for policymakers, investors, and various stakeholders from all African countries to address the various challenges facing SMEs across the continent, which include, but not limited to, market access and funding, constraints and opportunity to explore opportunities available for MSMEs that will ultimately contribute to economic growth, job creation, and sustainable development. And so in Namibia really is to ensure that our MSME grows from the current GDP contribution, which is 12%. And that's why we are gathering here in Namibia, Windhoek.
Certainly not without significance. Thank you for that very comprehensive overview on the role that MSMEs continue to play to build economies on the African continent.
Yes.
Now, in pursuit of that and to strengthen that further, which are the key topics that will be on the agenda over the next couple of days?
So Denver, the theme is fostering financial empowerment and educational innovation for African startups and MSMEs. And it's a very befitting theme when we look at the fourth and the fifth industrial revolution. And then also some of the topics that we are going to tackle is how MSMEs can take advantage of the integrated African market ushered by the African Continental Free Trade Area, fostering financial empowerment and educational innovation for African startups and SMEs, figuring out finance for Africa's SMEs. So we've got an overwhelming theme on finance because that is the current challenge. Navigating the sources of funding for African entrepreneurs, e-commerce training, meeting the Africa Quality Council, bringing the gap in access of finance and the role of digital and financial literacy. We are actually competing in a fierce, competitive global arena. And as Africa, there's no exception. So we need to meet those standards, and that's why we have these specific topics and the theme.
Thank you. So, as you just shared with us, the topics mainly revolve around access to financing.
Yes.
Why is that such a challenge, particularly for startups on the African continent?
Rightfully said, it's a startup. They don't have the capital. They've got great ideas. They believe in their ideas. And they need partners to make it possible. And that is why funding is such a challenge for our MSMEs. And we also know the funding criteria that you need to have collateral. You need to at least have the cash flow. And that's where
or a demonstrated track record. But if you're starting, there will be no demonstrated track record.
Absolutely.
Because you are starting.
And therefore, it should be a deliberate intervention from African governments to really support innovation If we do not support innovation, what really happens? The first world countries obviously come, take the ideas, give you 3 million, and then they continue producing that brilliant ideas, in millions, and they make profit. That's why it's so important to support innovative ideas that can work and that can really have access to those markets that we desire.
In your introductory overview, you said that market access was also a challenge. And of course, with the existence of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement being in place, what is it that we need to do in terms of broadening the access for our MSMEs on the continent?
It's a very good question, Denver. One of it's standards, consistent standards, certifications that we need to adhere to. The other one, it's expertise, knowledge in your product. The other one is the value addition. It's not good enough to sell a tomato. It's good enough when you transform it and you add value and you transform it into a tomato paste. Then you can get value for your money. And also having an understanding and an appreciation of regional value chain, local value chain, and global value chain, because you need to identify those opportunities in this value chain. And also the uniqueness. What I love about MSMEs, it's the uniqueness and the authenticness of the ideas that they can present to a market, and also finding solutions. It's all about finding solutions. And when you've got solutions to global problems, you create your own relevance. And that is what we want to create for Africa, relevance, and to sit at those seats in a global arena.
A matter very close to your heart, and it's a well-documented fact, on account of particularly your substantive responsibilities at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, relating to talent, relating to innovation, relating to productivity, skill set, skills development, skills in general. Those are matters that are central to all of this.
Yes.
Could you briefly touch on that as well?
Skills, very critical. First of all, we are competing against first and second world countries. You can imagine that they've got advanced technology. And so our MSMEs needs to engage in continuous learning, continuous development in terms of product development. We need to really have the skill on the market that we are serving. We need to understand the standards and certification, and without that, you cannot penetrate any market. We need to make sure that our product is fit for purpose, and that's why studying financial literacy is important. Understanding value chain is important. Understanding how to add that value addition and market accessing. Those are the skills that we need. We've been training enough, and as we've been having the high-level panel, we were saying that it's time to act. It's time to put those standards and patent. One thing is to protect our intellectual property. And that is one thing that we need to be trained, how to manage our finances, how to comply to country regulation and tax laws, so that you will not, find yourself not complying to tax regulations. So there's so much to learn about on how, to trade in this global arena. And that's why information and access to information is very important, and also standardizing information across the continent of Africa. And why do we want to tap into this Africa trait? It's because we really, the African Continental Free Trade Area. Why? Because Africa have the second largest population in the world. Not only that, we've got the youngest population in the world, which is forming a youth bulge, as we say. So we are experiencing it in Namibia, and so that is our African story, that we've got a young population. And we need to use that young population to our own advantage. We don't call it a young population. We call it our African demographic dividend. Yeah.
You're speaking about standards, and that's such a critically important matter, and to make sure that there's alignment across the continent. However, it has been a challenge harmonizing standards, harmonizing policies. on the continent, because each state is sovereign at the end of the day.
Yes.
How do we need to go about, particularly if we're talking about products and we're talking about minimum standards, at least to ensure that we're globally competitive, there must be some consensus around harmonization of these standards.
Absolutely. This morning we are going to meet the Africa Quality Council, and that is really to harmonize the standards. I must commend the AU for this vision. First of all, we crafted the definition for MSMEs across Africa. And now this morning we are looking at Africa Quality Council, whereby we want to harmonize standards. We need to remember that we don't only want to trade with the world, we also want to trade intercontinental and regionally. And so this meeting this morning will be very critical for us to harmonize our Africa Quality Council and also to harmonize our standards. Standards are very important. When you buy a product, you can there is a certification. We need to make sure that it's fit for purpose and consumption. And that's why this Africa Quality Council was established with a vision to make sure that we meet the quality that is required from us.
So we've unpacked market access, we've touched on the challenges relating to financing. Which are the other challenges that we've learned, particularly from day one already, all the participants, in terms of what MSMEs on the continent endure?
I think one of it, Denver, it's intellectual property and patent. You will find that if we don't patent our kapana, it can be patented somewhere else. That intellectual property, it has been an African story, isn't it? From the 18th century, that we always are at the raw material stage for many centuries and decades. And we want to change that. And that's why in Namibia we've got the local content policy, whereby we want and we are eager as Africans to start adding value. We don't want to anymore sell rough cut diamonds, but what we do want is to really add value and sell it at the same price that the global market is selling.
It is about the beneficiation.
It's a beneficiation. It's a concept that we are all learning in this value chain, beneficiation, and that is our emphasis. The others is it's really supporting innovation. You might recall that during COVID, it was all about innovation, getting the product to the consumer in a very isolated environment. And therefore, innovation, it's a key driver for our MSMEs in Africa. And those are the topics really. But I think one thing that we need to do, and what everybody is calling on, is to say, let's walk our talk. We've got the ideal environment. Let's create those market access. Let's create the funding mechanism. Let's start doing as Africa.
We cannot be caught wanting anymore.
No.
Yeah, we cannot only be talking anymore.
No, we need to walk the talk.
Yes. So what is it that needs to happen starting today for us to start walking the talk and also deal with those challenges?
I think the implementation at the AU, MSMEs, it's the implementation really. When we can have access to information, that's number one, and data. Number two, access to global markets. Number three, standards, certification, continuous training, and innovating and making sure that our ideas are protected. It's so important. We want to trade with the world, but we don't want the world to steal our ideas. We still want to put aside, and I've been really thinking throughout, and this is off topic, when John F. Kennedy sent the first man on the moon, it was African ladies that were doing the mathematics behind. The first heart surgery happened in Africa. So you will see that above all, Africa really have made its announcement, but yet have to act it out to say that we are here, unapologetic about our identity, and we want to trade with the world.
And the time is now.
Kenako. as we
Yes.
said in 2010.
Already.
The time is
Already.
now.
Any final thoughts before we let you go, madam?
I think it's very important to understand that this 3-day or 4-day event is about establishing strong networks with financiers across the continent. Our late president always used to say that you can steal with your eyes. And this is the time that we really want to harness best practices in Africa, also combined with global practices, and also to devise practical policy recommendations and solutions, and also to provide evidence-based solutions. We don't want to be theoretical. And then also to showcase investment-ready MSMEs to the African entrepreneur ecosystem through pitch platform locally referred to as Charlotte the Cage. And so we are doing it today. We are quite excited to really pitch these innovative ideas. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wealth of expertise. May the deliberations be nothing short of fruitful.
Thank you so much for having me, Denver. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Madam Julia Muetudhana, she's the Executive Director responsible for inter alia talent, innovation and productivity at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, of late also taking on MSME development, talking to us about the African Union MSME Forum currently underway in the Namibian capital.